But to us, the big star would be the real American voices.
Oh, Jesus!
All right, yes. Lost his line there.
That's okay.
A very big thank you to Ed Henry and Karyn Turk and Terrance Bates on America's Sunrise. Watch America's Sunrise.
Good morning, Patriots. Welcome to this American Sunrise, live in West Palm Beach, Florida. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see you.
And live from the Garden of Gods to Elitch Gardens in Colorado. So good to see each and every one of you. Ed and Karyn, good morning.
Wait,
Good morning.
what in the world are you saying now?
So the Garden of Gods
Garden of-
is a big kind of national park with these wonderful rock formations. Elitch Gardens,
Oh, yeah, I
Elitch Gardens is just a small amusement park here in Denver. But hey, that's all I had to go with. I had to try to connect two gardens, and that's what came to mind.
All right, I like it.
Oh, English Garden. So it's a theme park, like a great adventure kind of theme park, like a
Exactly.
Six Flags.
Much smaller.
Okay, I got you.
Much smaller. But Elitch Gardens, it is fun, yes.
All right, that's great. Well, you know, we've got so many, the opposite of fun, we've got so many problems right now. We've got multiple crimes by the Bidens, right? I was on this text chain yesterday with Ralph Chuck and Sean Lucas, great ravagers out there, and they're sending me these notes about how Fitch has now downgraded the U.S. credit rating because of Bidenomics and Bidenflation. We've gone from AAA status, credit rating, which we had since 1994, down to AA+. Nobody is talking about the Biden crimes. Nobody's really talking about the downgrade because we need to indict Donald Trump again.
It's unbelievable
and they think
what's
we're
happening.
stupid. We don't think all of this is connected. And yet, if you think about criminalizing the First Amendment and the fact that the judge in the case, okay, Tanya Chutkan, okay, she's an Obama appointee. She has sentenced J6 defendants to more prison time than even the prosecutors have asked for.
It's unbelievable.
And so when Donald Trump says, they're after you, and I'm just in the middle, here you go.
You know, and when you look at, I mean, people make references all the time, 1938 Germany. I hate to say it, but, you know, you think about this, it is like we're living in a police state.
Well, they
in some
said
ways.
that in their statement, the Trump
Really?
campaign, and a lot of people at
Honestly.
CNN and others jumped on them and said the comparison you made is obscene.
I think it's a fair
But the
comparison
people
at this
inside
point.
the Trump camp, and I think a lot of people in our audience agree. Go ahead, Terrance.
No, and I was just going to say, I think many of us never thought we'd see the day when politics would be criminalized, when people would be using political affiliation to criminalize political opponents. And that really is kind of the heart of what we saw in 1938 Nazi Germany. And again, I don't think any of us ever expected that we would be seeing this sort of banana republic, as a lot of people have described it, here in this country.
Right, and when I said
Yeah.
criminalizing the First Amendment, so the Associated Press this morning, I was reading early, and they say the defense for Donald Trump may rest on the fact that he will say, and his team will say, that he really believed that the election was stolen, right?
Of course,
Fair point.
he was given information. He made an assumption based on that information.
And here you go. Scoop from John Solomon, breaking late last night here at Real America's Voice and JustTheNews.com. So Bernie Kerik, a couple weeks back, turned over all these documents, guys, to Jack Smith, the special counsel. And the fake news said he's flipped on Trump. And immediately Kerik went on social media and said, no, I have evidence supporting Trump. And so basically what he turned over, and John Solomon obtained all this, is that Bernie Kerik, the former New York police commissioner, obviously, was working with a small team with Rudy Giuliani in the days leading up to January 6th, and basically was doing a police-style investigation of going through these fraud allegations.
At least somebody was.
Right, and they're saying right up until January 6th, they were still conducting this investigation, as basically trying to do it like a criminal investigation to prove this fraud. They were running out of time. They had judges that were shooting down some of this, but the point is, they were still, according to these memos, working on it, believed the election was stolen, and this could really help Donald Trump's defense.
They were doing the job of the DOJ. Is that what they were doing?
Well, right, and it was Trump's DOJ, not Biden's, which is interesting because you have Bill Barr there saying, no, there's not really any fraud. But what are your thoughts? I think the scoop from Solomon is important.
No, that's huge. And And there's also a case out of Michigan that shows that there were a couple of arrests just this week, a couple of Republicans actually in this particular case who were arrested on felony charges allegedly for allegedly tampering with the investigation. So I think those sorts of issues might ultimately help President Trump's case, because he can say, look, it was Democrats and Republicans who are now charged for these allegations of tampering with the election. So whether you think it was stolen or not, there obviously was some impropriety going on in various states as it relates to the election that potentially could help the president's case.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And his attorney, one of the attorneys in this case, John Lauro, was on Fox last night, and he was basically saying, as you were making the case, and Terrance just did, he believed the election was stolen. He had a First Amendment right to speak out about it. We no longer have free speech in America? I mean, maybe we don't.
No, and there's a lot of evidence to support the claims that have been made. And here, even what's been turned over is evidence that there was fraud.
Right. And the mainstream media wants to keep saying, well, history is made. First time a former president, he's been indicted multiple times now, but the first time indicted for official actions as president. The New York case was different. The documents case is after he was president. Lauro made an incredibly important point, though. This is the first time also in American history that your political opponent has indicted you because you're beating him or tied with him in the polls. Watch John Lauro.
And Joe Biden's running against Donald Trump and losing currently. And now we have that Justice Department indicting President Trump for actions that he took as the chief executive of the United States with respect to public policy matters. So now we have the criminalization and the weaponization of public policy and political speech by one political party over another. And it's not surprising when it comes. It comes on the heels of unbelievable allegations against Mr. Biden and his son, as well as the fact that Donald Trump is leading in the polls right now. And now we have what essentially is a regurgitation of the allegations in the January 6th report, which was highly political. It really reads no differently. So it's really an astounding document, because for the first time in American history, a former president is being prosecuted by a political opponent who wields the power of the criminal justice system for what he believed in and the policies and the political speech that he carried out as president. This is unprecedented. It affects not just Donald Trump, it affects every American who now realizes that the First Amendment is under assault.
Yeah.
We say it all the time.
It's unbelievable. And, it just seems like they have been so hungry to bring him in for January 6th and get him on seditious conspiracy, because it's the one charge that would prevent him from running for president.
And they came short on that one, though. They ended up saying they're not going to do that. But that's what they were desperate for. They were trying to get there.
Desperate for it.
Terrance?
And let's not forget, Georgia is still hanging out there in the wings. There's still maybe another indictment coming down from Georgia here in the next couple of days. And so it just seems like the powers that be, if you will, are trying to wear President Trump down. I mean, it's got to be difficult for anybody emotionally, financially for sure, and otherwise
$40 million
to deal with
legal fees already.
Absolutely. To deal with, this many cases at once, particularly as you're trying to mount a campaign for the presidency, it's got to be tough for anybody.
Absolutely. And yet, is it the best thing that's going to happen to Trump? Is this going to rally people around him? Is the money going to come in?
You would hope so. You would hope people would see what's happening, and they would wake up. They would be awake.
Please. Let's look at the Democrat side and how desperate they are. So Karyn was right, as we say, not just Trump, because you said they're going to fall back on the doting dad defense with Hunter Biden. He's a crack addict.
Drug addict.
It gets worse. Dan Goldman, who's become the lead attack dog and is just sucking up to Biden at all costs. And no matter what corruption allegations and evidence comes out. He went further yesterday and said this whole idea of all these conversations with Hunter and his business folks with Joe, it's because Beau Biden, the other son, had died tragically of cancer. So he was being even more of a dad to Hunter. So they dragged in a dead
because
child.
There was tragedy initially, therefore he had to make up of it.
So he had to talk
as
to
a
him.
father.
Even if his business people were there, and they were talking about the weather. So it was a couple of days ago, Goldman said they were talking about the weather. Now it's because a son died, and I met Beau once. I don't want to minimize. This was a rising star in politics. He was the Attorney General in Delaware. He served this country, by the way, in the military in Iraq. No matter what you think about the Bidens, Beau Biden was a real deal.
Right.
And he died very young, left behind. It was awful.
Tragic.
But to drag him into this and say his dad was talking to the business people because of Beau's death. Watch.
Could you just with specifics, tell us these phone calls that were a matter of such discussion yesterday. Like, what were they about? What would then Vice President Biden say in these conversations? Walk us through what happened.
Right. So let's put this in context. Beau Biden got very sick in early 2015. He died in the spring of 2015, which was right in the middle when Devon Archer had his business dealings with Hunter Biden. At that point, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden began to speak every day because they were both devastated by Beau's death. They spoke every day. The witness testified that over his 10-year relationship with Hunter Biden, there may be approximately 20 times when in one of those conversations, Hunter Biden would put his father at a dinner, not at a business meeting, at a dinner that he was having if he happened to get a hold of his father, and would ask his father to say hello to whoever was at the table. And that was essentially the extent of it. It was unclear, and the witness testified, this is not me saying that, the witness testified that a lot of times, most of the time, Joe didn't even know who the people were at the dinner table. So this was just simply, this may have been.
So the vice president's getting on the phone with people he doesn't even know. Like, that's not believable either. Like, you should protect the vice president, the president, not just randomly put him on the phone with people, number one. But number two, to drag in Beau and say that's why he was doting on Hunter.
But
it's
the narratives
disgusting.
are so transparent, and they come from such a place of like this victim mentality. I mean, remember, we're talking about the president of the United States at the end of the day. Isn't that incredible?
I wonder how much of a retainer he got for arguing this case and being the defense attorney in the court of public opinion. I mean, this is clearly, he's clearly arguing this case and arguing for the president in the court of public opinion. This is just to try to change the narrative, to try to shape a narrative, because it seems that Democrats are getting really nervous about what came out on Monday when Devon Archer testified before Congress.
Right, so just keep hitting Trump, let's do some other fun stuff as well. We'll get back to Biden. John Solomon joins us live at the top of the next hour. Terrance, the other day you teased me about mispronouncing Tupac. So I want to make sure I got that right. And I just
Tupac Shakur.
I said Tupac. So here's the deal. So then, maybe my phone was listening to that, because all of a sudden I got this yesterday on Instagram. Tupac and Jada Pinkett, Valentine's Day. She's now married to...
She's married to Will Smith.
Right, and people think she's very difficult. So if you look at the caption, a bullet Tupac actually dodged.
Oh, wow.
Too soon?
Wow.
Oh,
Way too soon.
Way too soon.
Still too soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, all right.
But for context, the two of them did have a long, they knew each other back in high school. They were like high school
do you
classmates.
know about this?
I do know about this, yes. They were high school classmates.
All these Hollywood
and
types
dated and all
hanging
that
out
kind of
together.
stuff.
Yeah, okay. I also read this on Instagram, I will tell you, and I thought of you, Terrance, because I think it means you will live
You were thinking about me a whole lot yesterday. Okay, I appreciate it.
Well, because I think you're going to live a long, happy life after I saw this one. Let's put it up, guys. Did you see this?
I did not see it.
Vegan influencer has reportedly, quote-unquote, died of starvation after subsisting exclusively off a diet of exotic fruit in Malaysia. Only 30. I mean, it's tragic. Don't want to make fun. But is this not a case for more bacon gang, more meat? I mean, how do you starve to death?
I'm sorry, there's more to this.
Is it a rabbit hole for tomorrow?
Yeah, let's go down the rabbit hole. I want to make sure that we, make sure her memory's a blessing. But I feel like we should go. We should definitely go down a rabbit hole.
Does this mean we should not be vegans? We should be
I don't think that there's got to be more to this. There's more to this.
We don't want to die of starvation.
She did eat fruits. That was her sustenance, if you will. So I don't see how, if you're consuming calories, how one would die of starvation, even if your diet isn't necessarily balanced. I'm not so sure how one would, and I'm no doctor, I'm questioning though, how would one die of starvation? It doesn't make
you're
there's more
both so
to
skeptical
that.
of this one. You're both like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there's more to the story.
All right, more? I got one more on turn. I was thinking about you a lot yesterday, okay? So look at this one. Because you like to say you're frugal. So Hero Dividend on social media. Meal prep is done. Bought a pizza at Domino's for $10.99 and made meals for 8 days. Terrance, that's $1.38 per meal. Have you done? You say you're frugal, proudly so. Have you ever done this, or will you adopt this? Because $1.38 per slice.
Yeah, here's the problem for the Bates family, and I will include the entire family. We can't just stop at one slice. we wouldn't just be able to stop at just one slice. If we get a pizza, it's gone literally within minutes. So 138
but do you do
a
that
day.
On Sunday
well,
night?
I feel like that's not a balanced diet either. Just eating pizza, the fruit,
Karen,
it causes death.
Karen,
I mean, really.
We're going to do this in front of company, Karen? We're going to do this in front of company. You're going to call me out in front of company, Karen? Really? On pizza? And you from Jersey?
But do you do that on
pizza,
Sunday night?
But not all day, every day.
Do you make a chicken on Sunday night and slice it up for the whole week or something like that? Like how frugal are?
We do. We'll make a big meal on Sunday night, and we'll last a couple of days. We'll kind of portion it out and eat leftovers. But again, I've told you guys, I've got picky kids, so they don't really do leftovers beyond a day or two. And even then, I kind of have to force them to eat leftovers. I think we're the same generation. We come from the leftover generation. You eat leftovers until it's all gone. These kids nowadays, and I'm probably party to some of that. I probably kind of encourage some of that. But my kids don't really eat leftovers as much as I'd like.
There you
go. That's a whole rabbit hole that I choose not to get into.
There it is.
Rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So, Terrance, before the show, you said you're wearing a Yankees tie. Is that a Yankees tie? And they did. It's a lost season for them, so I'm not promoting them. But I was reading Karen's book the other night.
I love it. He's thinking about both of us all the time now.
Behind the headlines. So I was thinking about Terrance all day yesterday. You were 2 days ago. So Terrance is more recent. But in all seriousness, August 2nd, 1979, I'm reading your book, and I'm like, wait a second. I didn't even know you knew about the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
That's the day that Thurman Munson died. You're right. I discovered a tragedy that morning. It felt like it was a tragedy for you. New York Yankee catcher Thurman Munson was dead. This hit close to home. I felt like he was the first person I knew who died. I'd watched him with my dad just before, a few days before at the game. He was the catcher. He was the captain. Wow. After Munson's death, my dad, you write, drove us out to Brooklyn for the weekend. During the week, he was at work with his briefcase and all that, and his pork chop sideburns. Very sweet.
It's very relatable.
Wearing something polyester with a wide patterned tie. And you go on to write about how this was like the first person who had died in your life. And I remember I was swimming in our pool, and my neighbor Brian Kemp came over and said that Thurman Munson had died, and I was crying. Yeah. Because I really still respect this person, and the reason he died.
I wanted to go to the funeral. I mean, I was like, this was somebody that I felt close to, even though I didn't even know the man. But as a child, it was such an iconic time. It was such a beautiful time in America. Think about how much has changed.
The reason he died was that he was trying to become a pilot with a small plane, and they had an off day. So he left New York with the plane, went to Ohio, was practicing landings because he wanted to be with his family on off days. And New York and Ohio are not that far in a small plane. And the plane obviously tragically crashed. So August 2nd, 1979? Wow. How many years ago?
That's way too long.
44.
I don't want to do the math. Wow. 44
years ago.
44 years. Wow.
So let's get to Jesus Calling.
Let's do it. Yep. Bring me the sacrifice of your time, a most precious commodity. In this action-addicted world, few of my children take time to sit quietly in my presence. But for those who do, blessings flow like streams of living water. I, the one from whom all blessings flow, am also blessed by our time together. This is a deep mystery. Do not try to fathom it. Instead, glorify me by delighting in me. Enjoy me now and forever. And this comes from Psalm 34:3. Glorify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together.
Absolutely beautiful. Thanks for that quick Yankee tribute. But I thought it was amazing that you knew who Thurman was. Because you always say you don't know anything about sports.
It's a big deal. No, I mean, I didn't really know what position he played or anything else. But I felt connected to this man.
Amazing.
See, and I learned something today because I hadn't heard of Thurman Munson, so I had to do a little deep dive into his life. Interesting. Thank you, guys.
There you go. Terrance, I know you have a couple of headlines. Start us off.
Yeah. So President Trump actually called it after Devon Archer's testimony on Monday. He immediately said that he expected to get indicted in the coming days as a way to shift the attention away from the allegations against President Biden. Well, Trump was right in this case because he is now facing a new 4-count felony indictment for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Special counsel Jack Smith's latest indictment marks the 3rd criminal case against the former president, with the 4th potentially coming out of Georgia any day now. The Trump campaign is calling the charges fake and questioning why it took 2.5 years to bring the case. Mr. Trump is due in court tomorrow to answer to these latest charges against him. And is it an invitation or inflammation? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Vice President Kamala Harris remain at odds this morning as the Vice President declines the Florida governor's invitation to discuss Florida's controversial new Black History curriculum. Just a day after Monday's invite, VP Harris responded by saying she would not travel to Florida to debate DeSantis on the topic of slavery. She did, however, travel to the Sunshine State immediately after the state's education department enacted this new curriculum to throw shade on a section that teaches that slaves developed skills that in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Harris and other critics are blasting it as revisionist history. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'll have more coming your way here in just a little bit. But now let's get back to the New Yorker and the New Jerseyan. Guys?
There you go. Well, it's interesting. People in the live chat resonate, even if they're not Yankee fans. Jack Dunn saying, I remember when Roberto Clemente died. He tragically died as well. I think he was helping. He was on a humanitarian mission, a great Pittsburgh Pirate. And I remember when Jim Croce died. So there are moments like that you never forget.
Impactful.
So hopefully we connected a little bit on that. We'll take a quick break. We'll give you an update. What is the deal with Richard Simmons? Where is he? What's going on with him? Did he wear a headband or not? And we'll also get into some serious news right after this.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
I can't afford your gas. It's Bidenflation across the nation. 81 million votes my ass.
That's right. Download and stream. 81 million votes my bleep, as Karyn would say. Still going strong.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm looking at the live chat on Getter. So many great Patriots out there. The live chat on Rumble as well. And RavMod 2 is saying, Ed, don't let Joe Weber come on until Mod 1 is back. Mod 1 is like huge fan. Runs the fan club.
Maybe they're off doing something together, Rav Mod 1 and Joe Weber, because there is no.
So on our call this morning, we found out that Joe Weber is not available today, and Rav Mod 1 is off.
It's off.
But I think Rav Mod 1 already is spoken for. So anyway, we'll have to.
Well, I mean, maybe they're doing some sort of secret meeting. They're plotting the fan club.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And there's a fan club for Richard Simmons as well. which is we want to do an update because we had a little fun with did he wear a headband or not. I was searching all day yesterday, can't find a photo, but I found this several years ago on Entertainment Tonight. I didn't realize the guy disappeared. Watch.
Richard's last public appearance was in January of 2014. He attended a fundraiser for California's health insurance exchange. Then in January of last year, the LAPD responded to an anonymous tip and came here to Richard's mansion in the Hollywood Hills. He was found to be alert and responsive. Now, our last sit down with Richard was in August of 2013, and this moment caught our attention.
When the king gets depressed, he doesn't call for his wife or the cook. He calls for the little man with the pointed hat. And he says to the court jester, "Make me laugh." And I am that court jester.
On Saturday, in a story called The Haunted Twilight of Richard Simmons, the New York Daily News cited a former friend who claimed Richard is being tormented by witchcraft under the control of his housekeeper. That appears to be the housekeeper, Teresa, today at his house. ET's executive producer asked Richard about her.
Is she holding you hostage?
Oh, no. Teresa has been with me for 30 years. So we're like an old married couple.
When was the last time you actually left your house?
Well, I go out on rides and I go on walks, but you know, I haven't done any television lately. I still weigh 150. I work out every day. I have a gym here at the house.
I see Terrance. The pointed head, the court jester, that's me.
He's always been an odd guy. I mean, he's a little quirky, Richard Simmons. I think he's reclusive.
And the housekeeper is like keeping him. What's going on there?
Witchcraft. There's a lot to unpack in that segment.
And if you missed the show yesterday, you know, Karyn says it's that so-called Mandela effect where we all believe that we saw him with a headband. and then it turns
had a
out
headband.
And I looked all over the internet.
Maybe it was witchcraft.
Never had a headband.
It wasn't the Mandela, it was witchcraft.
Hocus pocus, who's the headband? Man, I hope he's all right. In the meantime, the headlines are sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
All right, so we got some serious headlines, but that Entertainment Tonight story is from several years ago. You're telling me now that he's come out again?
Yeah, he's emerged a little bit.
Yeah, he's all right?
He's okay. He's okay. He seems to be all right.
All right, the housekeeper? We don't know about the housekeeper.
Don't know.
And the pointy head?
I'll give you guys an update in a little
All right,
while.
let's do it. Terrance, I know you have some headlines on, some updates on some other more important
Absolutely.
headlines.
There's some really big stories happening today. In fact, in case you happen to miss it.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding.
That was Special Counsel Jack Smith laying out his case on Tuesday in advance of President Trump's first court appearance on these newest charges tomorrow. President Trump is pushing back against the charges on Truth Social, writing, "Why didn't they bring this ridiculous case 2.5 years ago? They wanted it right in the middle of my campaign. That's why." His campaign is also out with this statement saying, in part, "This is nothing more than the latest corrupt chapter in the continued pathetic attempt by the Biden crime family and their weaponized Department of Justice to interfere with the 2024 presidential election, in which President Trump is the undisputed frontrunner and leading by a substantial margin." The 45th president also questioning the timing of the indictment, saying, "Why are they putting out another fake indictment the day after the crooked Joe Biden scandal, one of the biggest in American history, broke out in the halls of Congress?" Also happening on Thursday, suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton will be in a courtroom to answer to charges in a felony securities fraud case. The case against Paxton has been going on since 2015, but it's been stalled due to issues about pay for the special prosecutors in the case, as well as disputes on where a potential trial would be held. During tomorrow's hearing in Houston, the judge could set a trial date. So far, none has been set. In the meantime, Paxton is asking that 19 of the 20 articles of impeachment against him be dropped. His attorneys say those allegations stem from things that took place before he began his third term in office back in January, and the Texas Senate rules don't allow for public officials to be removed from office for acts that took place before their current term in office. There's no word when the 31 members of the Texas Senate will vote on this motion. By the way, Paxton's wife, Texas State Senator Angela Paxton, is barred from voting on any of the articles against her husband. Now, to the rotten part of the Big Apple, where a dozen people are recovering after being run over by two suspects who were trying to get away from police. All of this happened in Midtown Manhattan on Tuesday. Police say officers started following the car to confirm that it was stolen, and that's when the driver took off, leading police on a chase and eventually plowing over about 12 people. The 20-year-old driver is in custody this morning, but NYPD says a female passenger who was also in the car ran and got away. Police say the guy hit a bicyclist as well as a cab before jumping the curb and plowing over a group of pedestrians. The victims range from 6 years old to 72 years old. That's a quick check of your headlines, brought to you by AMAC.
Such a scary story. We're going to go back to New York in a minute because of the border crisis, which has made it to New York and all these hotels that are overrun. But a quick update on Rav Mod 1. Don't think she's with Joe Weber. She's in our live chat now saying she's at the vet with the dogs. Hopefully her dog's okay.
Hope the dog's okay.
Yeah, so unless Joe went to the vet as well, but we're told he had some other business he had to take care of.
And
maybe they're with Richard Simmons.
Rav Mod 1 is married, by the way. Very nice husband. I met her
Very
husband.
happily, yes.
Very, very nice husband.
Absolutely.
Very
so we'll
cool.
just clear that up. In the meantime, let's do a couple of talkers. Let's go to Chicago. You said they might be
I was
together.
not like insinuating anything, guys.
All right, just making sure.
I just wanted to clear it up. That's my homegirl, so I want to make sure we're good with her.
That's my home girl.
Okay, gotcha.
So is there you said, I think, a little while ago, people are waking up, right? And that was about the Trump indictment, but also the Trump issues out there that we talk about with Trump was right all the time and whatnot, like the border crisis. So look at some of these Chicago Democrats who are now dealing in their neighborhoods with this influx of illegal immigrants. And they're speaking out as if they're Trump supporters, stuff he's been saying since 2015 and probably earlier. They're angry about their neighborhoods being overrun, and rightly so, with illegal immigrants. Watch.
It is a slap in the face that we as citizens of the United States of America do not have the resources and support, but you're going to bring people who are not citizens here in our community, in our buildings that we pay taxes for, that you took away from us. That is completely unacceptable. We are in a humanitarian crisis right now. The black people in Chicago are bleeding on the streets.
This is incredible.
And we can make America great again.
There's one
I feel
more
like
line
that's
there.
the next line.
Right. Well, and what she's talking about, we don't know all the details in that particular neighborhood, but she seems to be referring to that some property was taken away from folks in this neighborhood, and now they're going to house illegal immigrants. On top of the governor, Democrat crazy Pritzker, who we reported on Monday, now has this plan. If you're an illegal immigrant, you can become a police officer in Chicago, and you can have a gun, and you can arrest U.S. citizens. I see you nodding, Terrance. Please.
No, I was just saying the woman you just heard from is an activist there on the south side of Chicago in particular, and she's really been fighting some of these issues for several months now, and fundamental to her concerns are that there's all this money, all these resources being put towards illegal immigrants when there are, in this particular case, she's talking specifically about blacks in Chicago who are dealing with issues, similar issues, and have been for years, and she doesn't feel that they've gotten the resources, they've gotten the support that was needed, but yet she's pointing out that there seems to be this rush to help some of these illegal immigrants who are in this country illegally and taking up resources that can be used by, and again, specifically for her, blacks, but I think the broader context is all Americans in need.
Right. So can I take it one step further? Because I think you made the point perfectly. So if you rewind a few years ago, when Donald Trump was talking about this, and it was white people in Texas and Arizona and other states saying illegal immigrants are coming, you're a racist. You don't like Hispanic people. You don't like people coming from Central America and South America and Mexico.
You're racist.
Right. But now you have a black woman saying, and we're not going to hear the mainstream media call her racist, I assume, because I think she's speaking from the heart. I don't know her. You seem to know a little bit more of the context of her activism. And, I mean, what I read, you know, I've never lived there. I love Chicago. Got some good friends there. I know you're from there. It's a state that's been, like, going bankrupt for years because of all these public pensions that they've got to pay out and the bad Democrat policies. So they don't have a lot of resources. So whether they get money from the state or from the federal government, it's going to these illegal immigrants, Terrance, instead of people on the south side of Chicago. It's upside.
Working class people.
Yeah. white or black.
I think the frustration we're hearing from her is the frustration we've heard from people along the border in Arizona, along the border in Texas. When it's in their backyard, they're saying, look, these people are coming here bleeding our resources dry, and we're not getting the benefits of the taxes that we're paying on a daily basis. And now, when it's in someone else's backyard, specifically in this case, Chicago, you're hearing similar things in New York, you're hearing similar things in Washington, D.C. Those frustrations are coming to light, and they're bubbling to the surface.
You're right. Real quick, let's show New York. I promised that, and Terrance just mentioned this. This is former Congressman Peter King. I happened to notice yesterday on social media. He was in Manhattan. He's from Long Island, and he's just showing pictures there on the right, Karyn, from outside the Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown, right near Grand Central Station. He must have come out of there from the Long Island Railroad.
That's crazy.
This is the street. Look at that, yeah. I mean, this is New York City. And look, there's always been homeless there, and now this is illegal.
It's incredible. You mean to tell me that Eric Adams can't find an empty space to put these people indoors and at least, figure out a way to minimize this?
May I make one last
Mr.
point?
Law and Order Mayor?
And what's humane about that? You know,
Seriously.
There's nothing humane. They're sleeping on the streets on cardboard.
Can I just make one last point? And I know we're running out of time, but here's what's troubling. There's all this focus on what we just saw there now because these are illegal immigrants. For years, decades, there have been homeless Americans on the street, and people have stepped over them, kind of looked over them, and not batted an eye. That is America first, putting those people first, putting the needs of those people first, as opposed to dealing with some of these illegal immigrants. Just a thought. I'm going to leave it there.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, look, when we had Giuliani and we had the New York Renaissance, the homeless were off the streets. There were resources for them. They cleaned up the city, and then the Democrats decimated, and here we are.
You're absolutely right. You're both right. Trump was right, Terrance was right, Karyn was right. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
So we're going to chew over some of these big issues of the day with the Resistance Chicks next, whether it's the border crisis or Richard Simmons and whether or not he wore a headband. We'll get into it with the Resistance Chicks right after this.
They kicked down my door, but they just let me go. Cocaine.
Patriots, welcome back to this American Sunrise. I think wasn't there like a big fight, the Miami Dolphins training camp? I haven't gotten all the details, but I read some headline. Didn't go down the rabbit hole, but that's where they play. They're expecting a big season, got a lot of good players. Tua should be healthy, the quarterback. So our sad Dolphins fan in Denver may have a good year. We'll see.
Oh, there you go.
We want to talk about the Wellness Company. They're going to make sure you have a great year because they got those big, beautiful supplements we talk about, twc.health/RAV. Actually, a viewer yesterday sent me a note on Getter. I saw it, my man, and we'll find out. I sent it over to the Wellness Company. He said he ordered some of these 2 weeks ago and hasn't gotten them.
Okay.
Many of our other viewers have said that they've ordered them and gotten them right away. Like George Colella sent me a note last night, says his family's using that healthy sleep formula, and they absolutely love it. You see Dr. McCullough's healthy heart and muscle formula there on the left, which I take, as well as the spike support right there in the middle. Big and beautiful supplement that deals with the spike proteins, and I assume that you didn't have a chance to take it.
And I'm going to take it. That's what I do. I take it on the show every day.
There you go. So the Wellness Company, check them out online, and we'll make sure you get your order. We're in charge of fulfillment as well as the news. How about that?
There you go.
You're welcome. In the meantime, let's bring in the Resistance Chicks. It's always fun to check in with them every single Wednesday. Good morning, ladies. Welcome back.
Good morning.
I don't want to forget. You got a big weekend. You got General Flynn and others coming to Ohio. Is that right? What are you promoting?
Absolutely. Okay, you guys, if you live in Ohio, we need you to vote yes on issue 1. The radical left has a major abortion bill. All eyes of the radical left are on Ohio. They want to take advantage of the weakness of our Constitution amendment process. So we want to raise the amendment process from 50% to 60%. We have a special election on August 8th, and I need you guys to vote yes. We've got General Flynn, Abby Johnson, and Jim Caviezel are coming to Cincinnati, Ohio to pray about this, to get the devil out from attacking Ohio. You guys can go to Catholics4Catholics.com and click on the link there, and it's going to be a rosary rally, and it's going to be so exciting. So if you guys are in Ohio, if you guys are in Cincinnati, please come and join us. General Flynn has it out on all his social media, so go and check that out, and please join us.
This is the same group that put on the protest at Dodger Stadium when they wanted to do the drag queen story hour.
The issue on our November ballot is one of the most radical, not just pro-abortion,
pro-genital mutilation, transgender.
It takes away parental consent for transgenders. I mean, the radical left, and they're not just coming after this. The Cleveland mayor had said if issue 1 does not pass, they're going to go after our guns. They're going after qualified immunity for police officers. They want to make Ohio ground zero to reshape
and raising this
states
to 60%. Many other states, including Florida, have already done
Florida
it.
and Arizona have a 60% threshold, so it's nothing
All right,
crazy.
we'll watch that. We'll check General Flynn on social media as well. Important issue. I'm glad you're standing up for life. We just did this story with Terrance a moment ago. I want to get your reaction because I assume you have this issue in Ohio as well. We're all border states now. It's not just Texas and Arizona. You saw New York City, Roosevelt Hotel overrun, not just the hotel itself, but out on the streets, illegal immigrants sleeping on cardboard. And that's a great job by our team in Denver. I mean, this is despicable. And Democrats preach about being humane. They used to call Trump inhumane and racist, let's just say it, and they were wrong. And yet this is how they're treating folks who come to America now. And you add to that, not too far from you in Illinois, where basically you now have people standing up and saying the illegal immigrants are taking our housing. And this is affecting black neighborhoods, not just white neighborhoods. What do you think about all this?
You know, unfortunately, the corporate elite want cheap labor. And it lowers the ability for men, mostly men, to make a living for their family. So whether it's roofers putting on your roof, whether it's people who are doing your landscaping, these guys, unfortunately, are getting paid below minimum wage. They're being paid cash, not paying into the tax system, which isn't great anyways. But we have to shore up the border because what you're seeing are people, maybe they're taking the jobs, maybe they're taking the housing. But as we have seen through the Sound of Freedom, Tim Ballard actually had met with Donald Trump in 2020. They were going to shore up the border because it's not just people coming into work. Sex trafficking is coming over our border. Fentanyl. We live in Ohio. You want to know the biggest problem in Ohio? It's the fentanyl, the heroin, the drugs, and it's coming all up through the border.
It's just terrible. It's unbelievable what's going on.
And Donald Trump was trying to fix it, and you see no leadership from the Biden White House, and so I think you're all making great points. Let's go through some of these cities, guys. 822, we were just talking about New York. You remember Sex and the City, right? Magnolia Bakery, the person there said, look how far we've come from Sex and the City. Multiple people, this is in New York City, obviously, stabbed near the Magnolia Bakery. That happened a couple days ago.
This is like in the middle of the village.
This is like a really great neighborhood.
A neighborhood that people walk around like
and I'm not trying to make
all
light
hours of the day.
The person said Sex and the City because it was a popular show on HBO, and these fashionable young ladies were running around, as you say, a nice part of Manhattan, and now people are getting stabbed. The next one, though, is even more chilling in Oakland. A Good Samaritan trying to help a person who's getting robbed, and that Good Samaritan gets pistol whipped. Let's roll that video and we'll get some reaction here.
Oh my God.
This is Oakland. I mean, these Democrat cities, and you see the Good Samaritan pistol whip. He's trying to help. I think it was a 67-year-old Asian man who was being robbed by these two guys. This is in broad daylight, as you can see from the video, and it's happening in Oakland, it's happening in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York City, you name it. And these Democrat policies that Trump called out, these cities are a mess.
Well, they don't want to touch the fact here that this is racism. We keep seeing, and nobody wants to talk about, black men attacking Asian women and men, and nobody is talking about this. They want to say white supremacy is this major problem. Guys, I don't know what's happening, but every day we see another crime where another Asian person is being attacked.
They're turning these cities into Gotham City. This is not by accident. It's not because they're just busy in Washington not doing something. This is by design. They want to turn these cities into blank holes.
Bring back Rudy Giuliani and have him fix New York.
No doubt about it. We need to see it.
Right. And meanwhile, they're dragging Giuliani into this January 6th thing.
He's going to be one of the co-conspirators.
Unbelievable.
Exactly. I want to go to San Francisco, though, because you just both made the point about the fentanyl crisis. So let's talk over this. So this is San Francisco. And look at the people who are just out on the streets, strung out. You see this in New York.
They just said Gotham City. I mean, this looks like an apocalypse. Like, this is like just unbelievable that this is America.
It does, and I want to show you one more. 825, guys. This is outside the Westfield Mall in San Francisco. And look at these folks. Look at these folks just strung out right in front of the mall.
Wow.
And they're talking. Look at this on the street, and they're talking about maybe shutting that mall down. We've seen all kinds of retail folks, Gap and others, get out of San Francisco in particular. And you look at Gavin Newsom. You mentioned him in some of his policies on abortion that you're calling out this weekend in Ohio. But think about what has happened. He was the mayor of San Francisco, now the governor of California. And you keep hearing Democrats say maybe he's the next presidential candidate for them if Biden's out. And he would bring those policies to the rest of the country. What are your thoughts?
When you decriminalize drugs, this is what you get. This is what the left wants. Having worked with Teen Challenge and parents, do you know how many parents pray every day that the police will arrest their strung out child so that they go to jail, so that they get clean? All of this is because they want to be all nice and kind to drug addicts. There's nothing nice and kind about letting these people kill themselves. And that's what it is, you guys. They don't want to spend the money. They don't want to house them. They don't want to clean them up. And they're hoping that they just die on the streets. What you just played there should not be happening in any sort of civilized world whatsoever. That was insane.
Absolutely.
That was like
I have a pit in my
stomach
stomach when I was watching it, and I've seen clips like that. But just today, I mean, that's just
broad daylight.
They don't care
at night
about these people.
Where are the police?
No, and they're enabling it. And then on top of it, now we have drugs in the White House, and now we have this doting father that's taking care of his drug addict son. They're going to pull that into the narrative now?
Absolutely. And remember in Chicago when there was all the violence, and the last mayor, Lightfoot, who thankfully was voted out, was on TikTok making music videos. This is the mayor of San Francisco. I mentioned Newsom used to be there. Her name is London Breed. I don't think she really cares about what's going on in the streets. Watch. Everyone's entitled to have a good time. I get it. I'm not going to be a nanny here.
Is that for real? Like, that's for real? That's
for real.
Really happening?
While your city burns.
She's partying while the city burns and people die.
What are these folks doing? They're elected, and they're not cleaning up these cities. We had Kamala Harris who played a clip yesterday.
Satanic.
She used to be the senator out there in California, and she said, yeah, the border crisis, what we need now are solutions, guys. She's in power. She's the vice president. Your final thought on that?
It's not hard to fix these things. We have seen states do it. We have seen other countries do it. So anytime you look at these kind of situations and you see a mayor like that up there dancing and her city is falling apart, I can guarantee you it's on purpose, and she's rejoicing.
No doubt about it. Hey, let's put up C5, guys, because I wanted to ask you, this is one of our friends out there, Silvio Nunez, who posts about the show a lot, and said, good morning, Patriots. Grab yourself some kofifi and watch us. And you see us there with Terrance and Richard Simmons, because there's been a big controversy. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but people insist that they saw him wearing a headband when he used to exercise. And Karyn says it's actually the Mandela effect, where you think you saw it, but he actually never wore a headband. And I searched the internet yesterday. I could not find a photo of him.
He did not wear a headband.
No, come on.
Have you ever heard
That
of
can't
this?
be real. No, I literally burned in my brain. The headband is in my head.
All
you
of
can't
us.
get rid of it.
All of us. We're all in the
Karyn,
same boat, but he never wore a headband.
Let's show the video. Here's a video without a headband. I want you to react to this. This will be the last one. Watch. There you go. So look, he was getting people off the couch. He was trying to get folks to get healthier. Didn't work out so much for him. I guess he's had a rough few years.
He's a rough few years, but he says he's doing okay. 75. He's very reclusive, and he just came out and said he's doing well. So,
if he come out and say he had worn a headband, we need to go to the source, because now, and I don't even know if I can believe him.
I don't know. I mean, it's in everybody's head. The headband is in our heads, but it didn't exist. It's
We're
not
living
real.
rent-free in your head right now without a headband.
I don't know what to do. It's ChatGPT that has eliminated the videos of Richard Simmons with the headband.
Ladies, thanks for playing on that, and also those serious issues out of San Francisco and some of these other Democrat cities. Make sure you check them out on social media, the Resistant Chicks, so you can find out more about their big pro-life event on Sunday. In the meantime, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with Beard Vet. Stay awake. Now, we'll Terry Lake on the way out.
I can't afford the groceries. I can't afford your gas. It's bad inflation across the nation. 81 million votes my ass.
this booth. I got 46 problems, but the truth ain't one. Hit me. I got 46 problems, but the truth ain't one. If you have the woke problems, I feel bad for you, bro.
Yeah,
I got
from 46 problems to Hakuna Matata. I'm just learning something new. So this is actually in The Lion King.
I can't believe that you've never seen this.
I didn't see The Lion King. My kids, I think, were older beyond The Lion King.
It's
when it was
amazing, but it's like
There's a
even
song?
it's like a grown-up movie too. It's not just for kids.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm getting mixed reaction from our staff. We shall see. In the live chat, Frybride, by the way, is saying the headband was actually worn by Pauly Shore. People, they look alike. Is that true?
Pauly Shore.
Pauly Shore looking like Richard Simmons. That might be a rabbit hole.
I don't know. Yeah, I gotta check that out.
All right, please do. In the meantime, stay awake, not woke. Yeah, this is Simply the Best Coffee. We've been talking about the energy drink as well. Become energy independent by going to beardvet.com, but also the Blonde Bomb, the Dress Blues, which is an outstanding coffee with a little bit of
the blueberry.
It's just great.
Smells
Love
so
that
good.
fragrance. I do that with coconut sometimes as well. It's a little insight. It just changes it up, so it's not just the
Coconut
same
like coconut water? Or?
No, you just there's like toasted
Like a creamer?
coconut flavors and stuff out there that I mix with this, and yeah, it's just to make it a little fun, right? You gotta
Sounds like a blueberry muffin. It's like
make it a
a
little
blueberry,
different.
and then you got the.
You gotta make it different.
Yeah,
You gotta
I
love
like
variety. Otherwise, it's the same coffee every day. But not with Beard Vet. It's very good. It's outstanding, and they've got a message as well. It's a patriotic company, and so we're proud to have them as a partner. And we like to call out the woke agenda. A couple of days ago, we did a story in this segment about that sex change experiment in UK that went bad. An 18-year-old died. Beast of Bourbon reacting to that. The doctor's sex change experiments are on the same par as Joseph Mengele during Hitler's reign of terror.
Yep.
And that's Jim in Somerville wrote that. Now, you mentioned, and you made this comparison, about what's going on with Donald Trump and the Biden DOJ, and when the Trump campaign made that comparison about the Nazis yesterday, mainstream media freaked out and said that's way too far.
They freak out every time, but there's so many similarities. How can you deny them?
And they don't want
you to see it.
They don't want to be called out on
No.
that. Let's look at the next one. This is a fresh one, which is Ohio, where we just were with the Resistance Chicks. So this is a youth drag tutorial for kids. Libs of TikTok, which tends to call this out on social media. The drag workshop. A group in Ohio holding a youth drag tutorial, as I mentioned. The workshop is sponsored by an organization that boasts on their website they're entirely funded by tax increases on local residents. Your tax dollars in Ohio funding, Karyn, the grooming of kids. So we'll get your reaction as well as Terrance. And we hear the left all the time saying this is an exaggeration, this is not really happening in America. Strengthening the community by supporting arts and culture.
$12 million on there, I was looking at?
I didn't see the dollar figure. Is that what it said? Okay.
Yeah, look like
Terrance, there you are. We were just in Ohio with the Resistance Chicks. We hear all the time, this is an exaggeration, it's not really going on. So now we need a drag workshop for kids so we can teach them about it.
And you have to pay for it whether you agree with it or not. Your tax dollars are being spent for that. That is shameful.
Good point. It really is. Let's skip D6, guys, and go to some Real American Voice. How about that? D8. This is Texas Born 51. Ed, Karyn, and Terrance, Real America's Voice, and live from Studio 6B as well. Thank you, guys and gals, for all you do every week on Real America's Voice. Appreciate support such valuable information. And they talk about this little kid with the animal. And they say, I found this post today. I liked it. I loved it. I wanted to share it.
With that hat.
So look at this. So she was basically.
Oh, I love it.
Try that in a small town. So look at this. They put the little chicken in the back, Karyn.
I love a chicken.
And you don't see this in the. You don't see that in the big town.
I want a chicken.
What do you think?
Look how cute that is.
We can't let Terrance have chickens there in Aurora because we know that he's gonna cook them up. We know on Sunday night he'll cook them up for the week. You, on the other hand, you're saying you love these chickens.
Look at the goat. Look, and the duck. Really, honestly, how cute is that?
There you go. There's our viewers. The Real American Voice is sharing that. How about that?
That's amazing. Well, everybody shares stuff. Trixie in the Mix has recipes. Look at this. I always like to collect and try new recipes. Here's a recipe for children, for preserving children.
Yeah.
Look at this.
1 large grassy field, 6 children, 3 small dogs, flowers. It sounds like the last kid. Where you throw in a chicken.
Like it.
Hot sun, deep blue sky. With the machines now, guys, you don't get that. That's the real way to preserve kids. We had a better childhood, didn't we?
We sure did.
Quick break. We'll try to get John Solomon on after that with his big scoop on Bernie Kerik. Stand by. plus the big star would be the Real American Voices.
Jesus!
All right, yes. Lost his line there.
That's okay.
A very big thank you to Ed Henry and Karyn Turk and Terrance Bates on America's Sunrise. Watch America's Sunrise.
Good morning, Patriots. Welcome back to this American Sunrise.
Live from West Palm Beach.
There you go.
Hey, we're in Denver. Good morning.
Why you only do that when Karyn does it? When I do it, you still come up with the Front Range and the Garden of the Gods. And with Karyn, you're like, all right, I can't do it.
I'm all out of ideas. I'll come up with something new tomorrow. I'll research something, but I'm all out of ideas. Plus, Karyn does it so great. I'm like, I can't top that. I can't do anything better than that.
Oh, thanks.
Nice tribute indeed. I tell you what, I think the Democrats are out of ideas. Bidenomics is not working as much as they try. The Biden crime family is being exposed. So let's indict Donald Trump.
The desperation showing.
Yet another indictment, and Georgia's down the road as well. Big scoop here from John Solomon. We're going to try to get him on the phone in a minute. JustTheNews.com. Bernie Kerik turned over some files to the prosecutors there, including Jack Smith, a special counsel, showing President Trump's team leading up to January 6th was still probing election claims, meaning that they were gathering evidence, Karyn, to show that in battlegrounds like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, you name it, Georgia, of course, where there may be another pending indictment in days, that they were still investigating this, meaning that Donald Trump's defense will be about how he genuinely believed the election was stolen. His team
He had this information. They were compiling information. They were making determinations. Sounds pretty reasonable. Somebody had to investigate, right?
Exactly. And Terrance, if you have this evidence showing that you were gathering it, and you were conducting a legitimate investigation, on top of that, the president has First Amendment rights, just like the rest of us, or he should, and wanted to speak out on this.
If we're still in America, that is.
Right.
Are we?
And then on January 6th, and we played this clip many times, he said, peacefully and patriotically, go on and march to the Capitol. And then once things were getting out of hand, we saw him many times on Twitter and in videos say, enough is enough, move on. Now, it was not enough for Ron DeSantis and others who have said that they wish he had spoken out earlier, but he did speak out. Try to make sense of this, because it seems to me that the left is out of ideas other than let's indict Trump and try to stop him.
And Joe Biden's running against Donald Trump and losing currently. And now we have that Justice Department indicting President Trump for actions that he took as the chief executive of the United States with respect to public policy matters. So now we have the criminalization and the weaponization of public policy and political speech by one political party over another. And it's not surprising when it comes. It comes on the heels of unbelievable allegations against Mr. Biden and his son, as well as the fact that Donald Trump is leading in the polls right now. And now we have what essentially is a regurgitation of the allegations in the January 6th report, which was highly political. It really reads no differently. So it's really an astounding document, because for the first time in American history, a former president is being prosecuted by a political opponent who wields the power of the criminal justice system for what he believed in and the policies and the political speech that he carried out as president. This is unprecedented. It affects not just Donald Trump. It affects every American who now realizes that the First Amendment is under assault.
Terrance? I think he said it pretty darn well. Sean Lauro, one of the attorneys working for President Trump, specifically on the January 6th case.
This is Watergate unprecedented in terms of really weaponizing, if you will, government weaponizing a position, the executive position, to get information or to at least to even create a narrative about a political opponent. The only thing I can think of that comes close is Watergate.
Others are saying, because I think what you're saying is what they're doing in terms of weaponizing it, but also trying to cover up the Biden crimes, which is really like Watergate.
And there's so many layers to this. Like, Watergate was much flatter. This has a lot more legs than Watergate.
And meanwhile, NBC Nightly News did not cover the Devon Archer story.
Unbelievable.
A couple nights ago. But they did go on and on. And this is Kevin Tober who posted this. They went on and on about Megan Rapinoe. from the who's always out there promoting the U.S. women's soccer team, hates America, doesn't like the Star Spangled Banner and all the rest of it. Here she was on the nightly news, and they weren't talking about Devon Archer.
Can the U.S. women find the same World Cup magic that drove them to win the last two tournaments, with their next crucial match just hours away? Molly Hunter spoke with Megan Rapinoe in New Zealand.
She's going for goal and scores. Megan Rapinoe will never be happy sitting on the bench.
You cry in your shower, and then you come out to training and you bust and have fun, and you make the best of it.
Now 38, no longer a starter, but that competitive fire still burning.
Every single game from here on out is that pressure moment, and that's the best part of being at the World Cup.
I caught up with Rapinoe as she and her teammates prepared for their high-stakes match against Portugal.
What is 2023, Rapinoe? What is this right here?
We've heard from these folks before. There's really nothing new there.
That wasn't a lead story. Please tell me that wasn't a lead story.
I don't know if it was a lead, to be honest, but it looked like it was pretty high up in the broadcast there with Lester Holt, who I've always respected as a newsman. Yeah. And yet, you say this before. I've heard you, say, look, at its heart, news is what's new, right? I mean, sometimes you just got to go back to basics. Mm-hmm. And the Devon Archer testimony was new. And if you're...
It is the big story. You know me by now, Ed. I really believe in journalism, in pure journalism. It's what I studied in school. It's a passion for me. I believe it is a public service. At its heart, on Monday, even on Tuesday, arguably, the Devon Archer story, reaction to it, was the big story in this country. There were allegations made that the current sitting president, as vice president, was party to business dealings with foreign dignitaries and potentially, again, these were the allegations, potentially took money from these foreign businesses. How is that not the lead story? That's just basic. That's not even.
You're assuming that this is a news organization. Right. You're assuming that NBC is a news organization. I feel like that's where you're getting it wrong. Instead of realizing that they're just a propaganda machine for the Democrat Party. If they were a trusted news source, I would go with you, Terrance. But I don't think they're that at this point.
Well, I think you're both right, because he's striving for that, and you're pointing out that the mainstream media no longer meets.
And he should have that expectation, but you can't anymore.
But let's push it forward, because you're saying, well, maybe NBC is a propaganda arm of the Democrats. Well, Sean Hannity and President Trump call MSNBC, owned by NBC, MSDNC. Yeah. And they did put on this propaganda. This is Jim Himes, a Democrat congressman, who after NBC didn't report on Archer says, well, that's not a big deal because there's no evidence here that Biden did anything wrong. Watch.
But have they pointed to anything to suggest that Joe Biden engaged in corrupt behavior? No. And on the contrary, Hunter Biden's business partner said, he was on some phone calls talking about the weather, exchanging pleasantries. Is that in the category of, presidential family members that are problematic? Billy Carter, Hugh Rodham, maybe it's in that category, but it is sure and absolutely not a crime. So.
Nothing to see here, but did you hear that? Was that like a Freudian slip where he said Hunter Biden's business problems?
Business problems. Yeah, no, that was definitely a slip for sure. That was great.
Terrance?
I can't. I can't understand these arguments. It is, again, they're allegations. And that, to be fair, I want to be, these are simply allegations. He's right. There's nothing been proven in court. No one has been indicted at this particular moment, at least on the Biden side.
Because we can't get it in court. And a plea deal to give him a slap on the wrist. And then they tried to sneak through no more potential criminal charges against Hunter. Mm-hmm. The judge at least smoked it out. And honestly, actually, I got a question, a legit question. So what's going on with that plea deal?
Yeah, what is happening?
What happened? He's not in court. He's gone, and everybody's moved on, including us.
When's the next hearing? What's happening?
Well, I mean,
what are we doing?
Any other person who didn't pay their... If the plea deal goes away, pardon me, I feel like the government would be in your face. Okay, Ed, you're going to pay the tax money? You didn't pay the IRS, right? Hunter Biden... He's got off on a private jet. It was in the New York Post a couple of days ago. Got in the Secret Service motorcade, went on a private jet, flew back to Malibu. Not paying his taxes.
Actually, he's probably in Switzerland right now. That's a joke.
You're going too far. In all seriousness, Jonathan Turley's not buying the Democrats' argument. He was on Fox Watch.
No money has to go directly to the president. There's lots of ways to benefit the Biden family. But the one thing that we can't do is just walk away We have to find out the full story here. I think this is shaping up to be one of the greatest corruption scandals in the history of Washington, and that is saying a lot.
That is saying a lot. One of the greatest corruption schemes. And Turley calls it like he sees it.
Yeah, of course.
So do Real American Voices, by the way. Terrance, react to this. Is Bread of Life. Our friend Jeffrey up there in New Hampshire. The brand, because they're now saying this was just a Biden brand. Get it? The Brandon. Hello. How profound. And he's got a little picture of 45, maybe 47 there with our friend Tucker. Bread of Life Fellowship. Follow him on Getter. He's pretty fun. Biden may not be able to run a country, by the way, but the man put together an amazing spread. That's at least what the Kansas City Chiefs are saying. Andy Reid, the head coach, saying, "Oh man, when after they won the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they went there and he said, oh man, the food was so good, so good. It's amazing. They don't focus on the border, they don't focus on fentanyl. We don't get the real story. But man, the food at the White House is so good."
Do you know what I miss? I miss when Donald Trump would buy everybody McDonald's in the Oval Office. I miss those days. Can we go back?
The football teams would come in and he'd get either Chick-fil-A or McDonald's.
Yeah.
How about that, right?
Now I have to admit, and somebody probably will find, that's why I'm admitting this, because somebody probably will find the video. I was critical of the McDonald's. I was like, come on. I was critical of the McDonald's. I was critical. Don't get mad at me. I was like, these guys won the national championship. They're coming to the White House. What a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I didn't think the McDonald's was a good idea, but the players themselves rebuffed me because they were like, this is the greatest thing. Like, we love McDonald's. So
Is there a clip of this?
Where is this?
Does this live in infamy on the internet?
I think I was.
Were you there with the players? Which players?
No. I wasn't there with the players. We were covering the story. I must have been working probably in Charlotte or somewhere else. And we, of course, were covering the story. Must have been Alabama, must have won, I think. And, President Trump brought Nick Saban, and they were at the White House.
Clemson
and he brought
one
in,
year, too.
He brought in, McDonald's. And I was like, dude,
people love McDonald's. Come on, man.
In my mind, I was like, wow, it's the White House, have the chef cook them up a big meal. But again, they proved me wrong because the players were like, no, we love the McDonald's. They came out and were like, we love this. This is the greatest thing. So I figured someone would fact check me if I said something otherwise. So I'm just being honest. You know me. I'm honest.
All right, well, here's Andy Reid going on and on. Biden can't run the country, but man, the buffet is great. Watch.
Andy, you mentioned how the food was excellent at the White House. Can you give specifics as to what was all involved in the spread?
Yeah, so they did have some good stuff. They had a grill. I've never had this before. So a French toast, grilled cheese, and ham sandwich that they sprinkled a little bit of powdered sugar on. I mean, it was phenomenal. The guys were, and there was abundance of this, and then they had chicken fingers, exotic chicken fingers to boot, and then maybe the best part was they had, which I hadn't seen before, but little bite-sized squares of the heart of the watermelon. So whoever, my hat went off to the chef. I went back and talked to him. I mean, I just go, you guys are unbelievable. I mean, whoever cut all of that out and had the patience to do that, that goes off to him.
Terrance, what do you think? Are you mad at fingers? What was that? French toast with grilled ham and cheese in the middle and powdered sugar. Andy Reid, I think he's lost weight recently, but he used to be a big fat guy on the sidelines, and he's sitting there for all the chicken fingers and powdered sugar. And
it sounded pretty delicious.
You know that sandwich he's describing? It's called a Monte Cristo, basically. It's basically a Monte Cristo.
With powdered sugar.
With powdered sugar. Like Monte Cristo is pretty similar to what he described.
Yeah, all right, that's pretty funny. All right, let's get serious. We were just talking about the Biden crime family, so-called, as James Comer and others say. Let's bring in our buddy John Solomon. He's on the phone this morning. John, good morning. Welcome back.
What's up, John?
Good morning, guys. Good to be with you.
We led our broadcast last hour and this hour with your scoop about Bernie Kerik. Associated Press this morning says key to the Trump defense in this latest indictment from Jack Smith is the idea that he believed that the election was stolen and was still gathering evidence. And you have a scoop saying, look, Bernie Kerik has shown the special counsel that there are documents showing they were still investigating this right up to January 6th. What do you have?
Yeah, listen, this is what is known as state-of-mind evidence, right? What was frozen in time? Where were they going into January 6th? And the answer is these documents, which are voluminous, by the way, show that the Trump legal team, Rudy Giuliani, Bernie Kerik, obviously working on behalf of the president, had a list of unresolved election irregularities, election allegations, and that they knew they couldn't get to them. They couldn't get them verified in time. So they pivot on the 4th and 5th of January to let's see if we can get Congress or a state legislator or an election regulator to examine these things. And the documents read just like an early police file. It looks just like a police investigation. Not surprising, given that Bernie Carrick used to be the NYPD commissioner, right? But they have very clear leads. They have very clear witnesses. They've got affidavits. They've got statistical analyses. And it is clear from the documents. And today I'm going to interview Bernie Carrick, so we'll maybe get more. It's clear from the documents that they believe these things are still active, needed to be investigated. They didn't have enough time or resources themselves, so their goal was to enlist Congress, the state legislatures, and the election regulators to maybe look at this and just delay the certification a few days to find out what was there. That is a very big piece of evidence. Legal experts who've looked at it since I broke the story last night say, hey, this goes right to the core issue. This is really strong prima facie proof that the Trump people still believe that the election was stolen or was flawed enough to take it to Congress, the legislatures, and election regulators.
It's incredible. It sounds so reasonable when you lay it out that there would be an investigation, that there would be evidence, that you would follow that you would want to make a decision based on that.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Jack Smith plows ahead. And to Karen's question, perhaps, John, you had all these judges, many of them liberals, some Trump appointees, who ignored this evidence, dismissed cases that Rudy Giuliani and others brought. How might that play out in a potential trial here?
Well, listen, all Trump has to do is provide enough reasonable doubt that what he said he believed, and then it was very clearly protected as free political speech. Most people argue, even if it wasn't true, that it's clear political speech and therefore protected under the Constitution. I think you heard Alan Dershowitz say that. I heard Jonathan Turley say that. But in this case here, the government's going to have to prove, nope, Donald Trump absolutely knew that what he did was a fraud, a fake. He knew that the election he had lost. There's a very key piece of evidence. It's a phrase, a paragraph in the indictment. I want to bring it out to everybody because I think it has a real potential legal and political boomerang on Jack Smith. There is a point that says Donald Trump clearly knew the election wasn't stolen because CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, that Homeland Security Agency you and I have been talking about a lot, right? Because that's the one that was also running all the censorship activities, remember?
Yeah.
Well, they made a declaration in December saying there was no foreign interference and no hacking of election systems. Now, that sounds great, except a year later, the United States Justice Department, the same one that Jack Smith works for now, came into court and said, oh, actually, CISA wasn't telling us the truth. There was a major plot by Iran. They hacked into a state election system, stole 100,000 identities of voters, and used it for a malign foreign influence operation during the 2020 election. So Jack Smith apparently didn't even check his own department's evidence. He throws this in there. The best evidence Donald Trump's going to say is, well, listen, I'm glad you brought that up because actually you're wrong. CISA was wrong. A year later, we found out there was Iranian hacking, Iranian malign influence in the 2020 election. Those are the sort of things that Jack Smith, I think, is going to face. They're going to be pretty tough boomerangs in the court of law and also in the court of public opinion.
Yep.
John, it seems that Jack Smith is trying to create this case, or at least create a perception that this case is all about election interference, if you will, and that President Trump was trying to overturn the 2020 election. But it seems to me at the heart of this case is a First Amendment case.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, there's a really great question. I think most conservatives will say what Joe Biden and the 51 intelligence analysts did to mislead the American people by falsely suggesting that Donald Trump, that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, that clearly was a fraud on the American people. But you haven't seen a conservative say, oh, we need to prosecute that speech, because they realize even though it was fraudulent, it was fake, it wasn't true, it was prima facie false when those 51 said it, and the Biden campaign arranged it, because that's what the Biden campaign did. They instigated and arranged this false claim. No one suggested that they be prosecuted. So you see the difference between the two parties. Republicans and conservatives can rightly point out that there was a fake speech and that it influenced the election, and it's terrible, and maybe we should strip their security clearances for misuse them. But no one's suggesting you prosecute it because Republicans see the constitutional argument. Jack Smith seems to be totally blind to the same argument.
Yep, and I see people in our live chat, John, cheering you on as a true journalist, as we know you are, but also adding your point about the 51 former Intel officials. I haven't seen any of them indicted. I haven't seen any of them caught on lying and misleading the American people. I know we're out of time now, but you'll have a lot more on this tonight. Make sure you're watching John and Amanda, Just the News, No Noise, 6 p.m. Eastern, and follow justthenews.com throughout the day. There's going to be a lot of breaking developments on this. John, thanks for helping us out and bringing that scoop to the table. Incredible reporting.
Thank you, guys. I love everything you and Karyn do. That is a great show.
All right, we appreciate it. And Terrance as well, along for the ride, the whole team. And we appreciate John because Real America's Voice is such a great forum for people to tell the truth. And John does such a great job with that every single night, 6 p.m. Eastern, with the great Amanda Head. We'll take a quick break. We'll try to drain the swamp. How about that? There's a lot going on. Devin Archer and the rest of it. And Kamala Harris, we're going to call her out for a little hypocrisy right after this.
It's Bidenflation across the nation. 81 million votes my ass.
Yeah, there you go. Download and stream. Karyn wrote a song, 81 million votes my bleep, as she says.
Yeah.
They spell it out there on iTunes and Amazon, so you can find it.
Keeping it classy, you know.
that's
Got to
what
keep it
Joey's
television appropriate.
That's terrific. It's also time to drain the swamp. Yeah, this is sponsored by CMUD, CMUD.com. RAF1776 is the promo code for 15% off this simply amazing apparel, including Trader Joe's, Trader with a T, where everything, Karyn, is for sale.
Everything's for sale.
I'm not joking. That's not a joke. It's for sale.
And there's cocaine in the White House.
There you go. But no cocaine in the apparel. Make sure you go to CMUD.com. We got to see Kyle Conforti, who runs the company yesterday. Great patriot. What an amazing story. Like, I knew that from talking to him off the air, and he's very humble. But when he just kind of spilled it out, because I think he was getting emotional about moving out of California and going to Tennessee, and the regulations and the taxes. And this guy works over 90 90 hours a week fighting fires.
Incredible,
out there
right?
As a first responder in
True
California, and then is in his garage till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, fulfilling orders. I mean, this is a guy who's literally an entrepreneur out of the garage.
It's the American dream.
It certainly is. So let's support these great patriots, shall we? And let's talk about the swamp. Kamala Harris yesterday saying we need solutions. Well, she's part of the swamp. She should be part of the solutions and not the swamp. But here she is. So let's put this out there. POTUS and I, the president, what is so funny, are removing every single lead pipe in America because all people should have clean water to drink. A little random.
So random.
Right. So this is all of a sudden what she's focused on. Now, obviously,
lead pipes.
Right, lead pipes.
And airline baggage fees. Remember when he was going to tackle those?
Yeah,
important issues for us.
That's so important. And meanwhile, you can't get a plane in a lot of places. I keep hearing about these delays. Friends who have had trouble, I haven't traveled as much that recently, but are saying that there's a real shortage of pilots. The airlines have been covering it up. Buttigieg has been covering it up. But on the lead pipes, because they lie about all this stuff. So, yes, people should have clean drinking water. But look at our viewers calling about. Wait a second. You want to talk about clean drinking water? Trump's Peaky Blinder on Twitter said, you haven't even managed to visit Palestine, East Palestine, Ohio. And that's so true because if you want to go out there, and this is the hypocrisy, and tell us, me and the president are focused on clean drinking water. Go tell that to the people.
Lead pipes. We got people sleeping on the street in New York on fentanyl.
No solutions.
No San
solutions.
Francisco,
which she used to represent in the Senate. She was the California Attorney General. And look at San Francisco.
That's what she's tweeting?
That's what she's focused on right now. And again, of course we're in favor of clean drinking water, but they want clean drinking water in East Palestine. She hasn't been there.
Yeah, well, again, more important issues ahead of that, maybe.
Unbelievable. The mainstream media, a big part of all of this swamp as well. Watch their evolution on Hunter Biden, the laptop, the big guy, all that. Look at how the mainstream media has been lying.
So far, they have been not able to prove any evidence here of wrongdoing.
House GOP members continue to try and link Hunter's business dealings to the president, though they have yet to produce any concrete evidence.
Now, it is important to keep in mind, while Republicans believe that there is a tie between Hunter Biden's business dealings and the president himself, they have yet to provide any hard evidence that the president himself has done anything wrong.
House Republicans are going to accuse him.
They are.
They're going to make the accusation.
They're going to accuse him of all sorts of stuff.
Whether they have the evidence or not.
Correct.
And Republicans have not tied the president, Joe Biden, to profiteering from them.
They didn't have the evidence yet.
Where's the evidence? There is no evidence of any wrongdoing by the president.
There is today zero evidence that Joe Biden, the president of the United States, knew about what his son was doing. And if the president of the United States committed the kind of offenses that in the Republican fever dreams they're saying he committed without any evidence, there is at this point zero evidence that Joe Biden is guilty of anything. What the Republicans are doing, of course, is they're just very, very angry that their guy got impeached twice. And so they're just casting about for a way of revisiting retribution on the Democrats. And this is their latest fever dream.
Isn't it interesting that the Democrats like Himes keep saying there's no evidence. Chris Coons with Chuck Todd there on Meet the Press. And that's what the reporters parrot if you saw at the beginning.
It's blame Republicans. Republican fever dream was my favorite part.
Right.
It's a Republican fever dream.
And there's no evidence, they say. Are you blind? Are you just not paying attention? They're not. They turn the other way when these hearings with the IRS whistleblowers and the others. And James Comer comes out with all the money, the bank transfers, and all the money that went into the Biden family.
Incredible.
That's evidence.
Yeah, it's evidence for sure.
Watch this ABC News reporter, meanwhile. So we talk about the word salad vice president and all the word salads. This reporter actually seems to try to blame the word salads on Kamala's critics going after her race and gender, that somehow it's about race and gender.
Wow.
That's what the media tries to do. Watch.
There are reports that say that you have the lowest approval rating of any vice president. I'm curious how much of a role, if any, that you feel race and gender play in that.
Well, there are polls that also say I have great approval ratings. I think the point that has to be made is that there are attempts to create distractions away from the accomplishments of our administration.
So first of all, the reporter tries to put this false idea that she's being attacked because of race and gender. That's not. She's been an awful
Maybe
vice
she got
president.
the job because of race and gender.
Right? Isn't that interesting? That's why Biden
Because she
picked
checked
her.
a box.
But then did you catch at the end, Kamala says that there are polls saying that she's got great approval ratings, and a lot of people fact check that and cannot find a single poll on any news organization saying she's got high
approval. It's a self-appointed poll.
Yeah, okay.
It's how she identifies. She identifies that way.
She identifies as high approval.
People like her.
But very interesting.
Yeah.
She's good enough and smart enough. It's like that Saturday Night Live.
You can be whoever you want to be.
There you go. The economic headlines are sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
And there you go. We're going to Wall Street. Oh, there's the bell. Hey, that's perfect, Terrance. You see, I see your smile. I mean, sometimes we time it right, and other times, if guest goes on long. And there you go. The opening bell is there. Dow is down today. We've seen some green days. Wow. Dow down 140, S&P down 31, NASDAQ down 150 points. So we'll have to see what's moving the markets this morning. But down day to start it off, my man.
Well, Ed, as you said, the bell there, right on the money.
Oh.
Yes, I'll be here all weekend, ladies.
That, as you said, right on the money.
All right, guys, let's get to this morning's economic headlines. You've probably noticed that gas prices are back on the rise these days. In fact, the national average for a gallon of gas is at $3.80 this morning, which is up 2 cents from yesterday. It's about 25 cents more than you were paying just a month ago, and yet it is still cheaper than what we were all paying last year this time. AAA says the current gas price hike is unusual because it typically takes a hurricane for prices like this to change so quickly. Plus, demand is down as fewer people are filling up their cars compared to this past year's. Experts blame global supply production cuts in oil, along with this summer's extreme heat and the impact on refineries for the cost increase. One industry analyst is saying that while the heat may be keeping people home, it is also keeping refineries from making refined products, which in turn constrains supply. We're days away from the Durban Accords, which is the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in the past 80 years. On August 22nd, BRICS nations, which is made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are expected to announce the launch of a new international supercurrency that's fully backed by gold or other commodities. This is all part of their long-term plan to supplant the U.S. and the U.S. dollar as cornerstones of the global financial system. So, how can you protect your IRA or your 401k from the fallout from this landmark announcement? Well, the answer is simply to diversify with gold from the Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which of course is right now. So get a free information kit on gold IRAs and decide for yourself if a tax-sheltered retirement account backed by physical precious metals is right for you. It's as simple as texting the word America to the number 989898. There's a monumental shift happening right now among nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP, and it kicks off on August 22nd. So arm yourself with information to protect your retirement savings simply by texting the word America to the number 989898 and claiming your free information kit on gold from the Birch Gold Group. That's a quick check of some of your economic headlines. And yes, it was right on the money as well.
There you go, right on the money. I like it. You know what's not on the money is this Democrat, the way that they explain away the evidence showing wrongdoing by the Bidens. You called it out previously that they were going to say, Joe's a doting dad, Hunter's a crack addict.
Yeah.
He's just trying to help.
He's trying to help
It's
him.
getting worse, though.
Covering up for his son.
Well, there's a second son, and Beau Biden tragically died of cancer very young. And now Democrat Dan Goldman went on MSNBC and basically said, look, it's also he was doting on his son who had died and wanted to spend more time with Hunter. And that's why he was on the phone so much with Hunter and his business associates. It's shameful. Watch.
Could you just, with specifics, tell us these phone calls that were a matter of such discussion yesterday, like what were they about? What would then Vice President Biden say in these conversations? Walk us through what happened.
Right. So let's put this in context. Beau Biden got very sick in early 2015. He died in the spring of 2015, which was right in the middle when Devon Archer had his business dealings with Hunter Biden. At that point, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden began to speak every day because they were both devastated by Beau's death. They spoke every day. The witness testified that over his 10-year relationship with Hunter Biden, there may be approximately 20 times when in one of those conversations, Hunter Biden would put his father at a dinner, not at a business meeting, at a dinner that he was having if he happened to get a hold of his father, and would ask his father to say hello to whoever was at the table. And that was essentially the extent of it. It was unclear, and the witness testified, this is not me saying that, the witness testified that a lot of times, most of the time, Joe didn't even know who the people were at the dinner table. So this was just simply, this may have been Hunter's effort to say, hey, this is, the vice president, this is my dad. But the critical part here for Congress, and that's what we have to make sure we understand, is that Joe Biden was doing nothing to benefit his son.
Nothing to benefit his son.
It's just really, wow.
Almost none of that answer seems accurate, truthful, honest.
And here, there are so many layers to unpack, and we don't have the time. But two things that come to mind. That's an explanation, if that is an explanation, a reasonable one, that should be coming from the president of the United States, who's directly impacted, not from these other tangential people. The president of the United States owes the American people an explanation, and I have yet to hear one.
He hasn't had a news conference in a long time.
He doesn't even know what the explanation is. He's not going to be able to do that. He can't deliver that. It's all scripted. Even these people that are running their mouths with this narrative, it's all scripted.
It is.
It's all
Your
pretend.
second point?
Now, the second point is simply, what vice president worth his or her marbles would be having a conversation with anyone not knowing who they're talking to?
Right.
Yeah.
That's unreasonable. And the fact that the people who guard the vice president would allow that to happen is unreasonable.
They were talking about the weather. That was the previous segment. They were talking about
Who's that? Who's that? Oh, that's the guy from Ukraine. Okay, yeah. It's so sudden. Child, please, come on, man. We all know that. Come on.
I think the key word you used was marbles, because Joe's lost them. So
yeah, there are no marbles.
I don't know if he did that on purpose, but it was a good explanation. Terrance, appreciate you as always. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. 2024 is getting saucy. That's sponsored by Red State Barbecue. We'll do it right after this. Patriots, welcome back to this American Sunrise. You know what go good with that American Sunrise ale, I guess, if it exists, would be some Red State barbecue sauce.
Ah,
right?
yeah.
With some food, obviously, not
That
just
would
the
be good.
sauce or the bird rub. But 2024 is getting saucy. That's sponsored by Red State. Let's go. Yeah, there you go. RedStateBBQ.com. Use that promo code RAV10. You've got 10% off. The sauces are simply scrumptious. But the bird rub, man, oh man, that was really good on the macaroni and cheese. I think I might have to take this home and do that again.
There you go. I think you should.
All right, it's good. You say it's good on pasta as well. When we had our friend David Carroll on, he said, mixing and matching like that, a lot of people like to do it. We had one of our viewers say that they took your advice and did the Alabama show horse with some potato salad.
So good, delicious.
It's quite good. So make sure you check out redstatebbq.com. Use that promo code RAV10. In the meantime, 2024, very interesting. I don't know if you caught this, but Town Hall is reporting that Biden allies, they must be really concerned about just how old he is. I mean, you saw that ridiculous beach photo, for example. They've now gotten caught photoshopping pictures of him, and they keep doing these memes where they say, who do you think's younger? Trump wants to talk about being younger, and they'll pick like the most unflattering photo of Trump on the golf course and suggest that
they're face tuning him. Look, oh wow.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because if you look at him for real, he ain't that.
He's like this is like an Instagram
so they
like
try
model
to do this
situation.
And say, look, Trump doesn't look good, and he's got the baggy shirt. I think he's got a baggy polo shirt there because when the last time I saw him, he's lost some weight. And he seems to be in fighting shape there, 45 on the right, 46 on the left. They like to make him look tanner and younger.
Well, when they're photoshopping, they're not even doing a good job because they're only doing the face. So you can still see the hands. You can still see everything. Yeah.
You're right. And then, is this right before he fell on the bike, by the way? Because I'd like to see the next frame. Maybe it was a different time. But you see on the left how much more aged he is.
Yeah,
80.
yeah.
And then on the right.
You just click one button. I mean, the Facetune is just one button. And it just automatically goes bing, and it just brightens up the face and gets rid of the wrinkles and fixes it all up.
Have you used this?
Yeah, of course. This is what people do. Yeah, this is what people do.
I like that you walked in there. Oh, it's quite easy. Oh, well, I've heard that.
It's true.
I've heard
people
that.
do. They filter their photos now.
There you go. That's what happens. The Biden crime family. How about this on Russia? Our friend Greg Price is always active there. He says, it was Russia for 3 years. But on the day that Hunter's former business partner testified, Devon Archer, that Biden, while vice president, attended a dinner with a Russian billionaire who later wired $3.5 million to his son's firm, you don't find it anywhere in the New York Times or Washington Post. And I think it's very interesting call to media. We're going to do that in a clip in a second. And you look at their websites, and they didn't have anything about Devon Archer and Russia. And they spent 3 years, and you talk about this sometimes with the mantra, Russia, right? And that's all it was. And that was the whole
distraction.
And
dirty hands pointing the fingers.
Right. And so Mueller, the whole investigation, was it $30-40 million? And they really didn't come up with much on Trump at all. No collusion, as he said over and over, no obstruction of justice, no cover-up. And it was all about Trump allegedly had ties to Russia. Roger Stone allegedly had, and they didn't really find that. But now we find out there was a pretty big tie between Biden and the Russians.
Pretty
so maybe
wild.
it was the dirty hands pointing the finger, as you said.
Of course it was. Of course.
So you got to say, when will there be accountability? Right? Exactly, for the media. So Daniel Baldwin from OAN posted this, a flashback. The Washington Post actually wrote in 2019, Trump has falsely claimed that Biden in 2015 pressured the Ukrainian government to fire Viktor Shokin, the top Ukrainian prosecutor, because he was investigating Ukraine's largest private gas company, Burisma, which had, of course, added Biden's son Hunter to its board. The corporate fact-checking business is and always has been a complete scam, because Daniel's point is we now know that, in fact, he did pressure that prosecutor and that they did have these ties to Burisma, and no one apologizes.
And Trump, you know what? He stood his ground. He said it was a perfect phone call. He never gave up, and he didn't give in. As much as they attacked him, he said, no, this is the way it is. I'm going to stick to my guns.
It's crazy. And so they spent all their time when Trump was in office fact-checking.
Yeah.
Dubiously in some cases. And now Trump's out of office, Biden's in there, and they just look the other way. That they said, oh, Trump falsely accused him of this. And then when it turns out, no, Trump was right, as we say.
Trump was right.
They never come back and are never held accountable. Politico has this story, by the way, on the Republican side. DeSantis still fading. DeSantis' presidential ambitions are in the hands of a small circle of wealthy donors, they write. Deep-pocketed political donors have flooded his super PAC, demonstrating his campaign's reliance on an outside group to get things going with all these wealthy folks. But in fact, he's not getting those small donors that really have fueled Donald Trump's runs for the White House. And so
the real people, the real Americans, not the big dollar donors that aren't in touch with reality, the people who are actually working class people, those people.
The real American voices. And maybe that's why DeSantis is so low in the polls. He doesn't have that excitement around him. He doesn't have your average Joe or Jane who wants to give him $5 or $20.
It's hard to connect.
And they're not going to turn out for him for a rally or whatever.
Yeah, he's not, look at the Dairy Queen. Look at when he went to Dairy
retail
Queen.
Politics, it might be a little lacking for DeSantis. Let's bring in our buddy Terrance Bates. I know he's got a couple of headlines. Terrance, good morning again.
Hey, guys, good morning. Good morning to you at home. And, of course, as always, a special good morning to those of you on our Getter Chat. More 2020 election-related charges are coming out of Michigan this morning as 2 Republicans in that state are facing felonies for alleged election tampering. Attorney Matthew DePerno is charged with undue possession of a voting machine and conspiracy. Former State Representative Dare Rendon is charged with conspiracy to commit undue possession of a voting machine and false pretenses. DePerno was endorsed by President Trump last year in an unsuccessful campaign for Attorney General in Michigan. He says that he categorically denies any wrongdoing and, quote, looks forward to the date when his innocence will be demonstrated in a court of law. Michigan is one of at least 3 states where prosecutors say people breached election systems. More than 1,000 American troops deployed to the U.S.-Mexico border to secure it after Title 42 expired are now headed home. The 1,100 active duty troops are being pulled off the border by August 8th when their 90-day mission concludes. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin approved the temporary deployment of 1,500 active duty soldiers back in May. After next week, 400 troops will reportedly remain in place to continue the mission through August 31st. When the troops were initially deployed, border officials said about 10,000 migrants were illegally crossing into the country each day. Now they're saying the daily encounters are down to about 5,000. And the ransom for an American nurse and her young daughter who were kidnapped in Haiti last week is reportedly $1 million. The New York Post says the gunman stormed the small clinic where that woman was working and then took her. The U.S. State Department isn't confirming the ransom request, but says it is regularly in contact with Haitian authorities and will continue to work with them and the U.S. interagency partners on this case and others. Hundreds of Haitians have taken to the streets in protest this week to chastise the government for the ongoing violence on the island. They're also pushing for the release of the New Hampshire nurse and her daughter. That's a quick check of some of your headlines. I'll, of course, have more headlines coming your way here in just a little bit. Now, let's get you back to Ed and Karyn.
All right, Terrance, appreciate it as always. It's getting a little hot in the studio. I think you got to get the AC.
I don't feel like it's hot, but I don't like the AC. I like it nice and warm, toasty. That's why I live in Florida.
We got hot lights here. We need the AC. Come on, Terrance, you understand.
Yeah, it's a little chilly in here, though, too. I'm with you, Karyn. I like it a little more toasty.
Okay, thanks.
I don't really do the cold like that. You guys may see me. I'm sniffing and covering my head all the time. Yeah, it's a little chilly in here to me, too.
There you go. Well, I think it's a perfect time to go down the rabbit hole with Karyn. So there was that big UFO hearing last week. A lot of people felt like it was a distraction from the Biden crime family.
Okay.
Now the government was throwing a little chum out there and saying, check it out, there might be UFOs. Now, you're a believer.
I am.
Others are not.
You're a believer, both in God and in UFOs.
Both, yes.
Right.
I believe in both. I think God created a lot of things we don't understand.
Fair point. But look at this from Joe Cali TV. At the UFO hearing, this kind of got overlooked. Some in Congress made accusations that some of these big defense contractors, part of the swamp, right? They're part of that deep state and everything, are keeping and reverse engineering UFOs when they're found.
Yes.
And so this guy, Joe, decided to go out. He's in the television business and ask a few of them. So guess what Lockheed Martin responded with? A short response that did not deny that they are keeping UFOs and reverse engineering, Karyn. Lockheed Martin, quote, questions about UAPs are best addressed by the U.S. government. I do not see, no, we're not reverse engineering. When, as a reporter, when I call someone and they say that, I'm thinking, maybe you do have a little garage with some UFOs.
I think, we have Trump was right. There are different people that were right, that were conspiracy theorists. Bob Lazar came out in 1989, said that he worked for the government, that he was reverse engineering UFOs. People thought this guy was a total kook. Maybe some of it was true.
You know this. You'd say you're a journalist, right? You call Lockheed Martin and say, you guys reverse engineering UFOs, and say, you got to call the Pentagon.
Right.
That's not a no.
That's definitely not a no, and it leads to many more questions. I just have questions. You mentioned a garage. They have a UFO in a garage. If they've got a UFO in a garage, not a hangar, that's the story I want to be on.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about one of those big garages, but I guess you call it a hangar.
A hangar, a garage. But the sport model, according to Bob Lazar, was a smaller UFO. Maybe it would fit in a garage.
Maybe I was right. I was thinking UFOs were a little small.
You got a UFO.
Yeah. It was the sport model.
But it's interesting, because Lockheed Martin says these questions are best addressed by the government, Karyn. But then if you call the Pentagon, their answers are even wackier. They decide to slam the whistleblower's testimony, A12 guy. The head of the Pentagon's UFO office slammed that congressional hearing in which 3 whistleblowers claimed they had first-hand encounters or knowledge about secret government programs involving technology. So the government's not helpful when you get referred to them. And then Anna Paulina Luna, who has really been pushing on this, a freshman congresswoman, from here in Florida. We just had a witness, Grush, he was one of the whistleblowers, testified to Congress. He was in fear for his life, and his former boss, Kirkpatrick, decides to post a letter attempting to discredit him and attack him. That seems odd. Kirkpatrick, why did you not follow up on Grush's concerns when he disclosed them to you? Final word
question.
from you. A lot of these people around this controversy are acting very strange.
Very strange. I think you got to keep watching.
We're going to get some answers.
Yeah, so how about this, Mr. Kirkpatrick? If you have such concerns about the testimony that was given, come before Congress and testify yourself. Refute it personally. How about that?
Testify under oath. Put the arm up. Let's see it.
Let us ask you questions. Refute, speak your piece, and then put yourself out there on the seat so that we can ask some probing questions. How about that? And when I say we, that would be Congress.
There you go. We the people. How about that? Quick break. We'll be back. We'll spill some tea with the Artillery Tea Company right after this.
Down Hunter's crack pipe. Right now. Right now.
as well. The Bidens know all about that song. Download and stream it. By the way, there's an account I have nothing to do with in the Getter chat, 81 million votes, my bleep, as you might say, who says, I have a smoking gun. This person
wow.
claims.
What smoking gun?
A VHS tape. You remember those, right? When you were VCR. With Richard Simmons on the box cover. He's wearing head and wristbands.
Wow. Okay, well, we got to see it.
81 million votes. Put it on Getter today, and we'll have an update tomorrow. In the meantime, it's time to spill some tea. This is simply the best tea. ArtilleryTeaCo.com. Use that promo code RAV. Get 10% off. If you don't have the morning mother of all bombs, you are simply missing out. Whether you get the caffeinated version that really gets the bomb, as they say, that's what they're playing off of the Pentagon's mother of all bombs, to get your day going with lots of caffeine, a big injection, or get the decaf version and enjoy that.
There you go. You still get the flavor.
Chamomile, the green tea one, which I've always been, that's been my favorite, and now you say you're getting into that as well. Apricot
I am getting into that, yep.
It balances out the bitterness that you can find sometimes in green tea. Antioxidants, it's healthy. It's all natural. It's whole leaf tea.
The honey's really good with it. It brings out the apricot.
They should make their own honey. How about that? We'll get some Rav honey. In the meantime, let's spill some tea about when MSNBC just loved Donald Trump and kissed his butt. Watch.
Gentlemen.
Watch your head. Very tall.
How are you?
Nice to see you. How's it going? Okay. How's it going? All right. That's great.
What is the charm there?
Right here.
Have a seat here.
Have a seat, sir.
Thank you very much. None of us need that much hugging.
Okay.
So let me ask you. Let me start with the tough question. Is Mika Brzezinski not just as beautiful today as the first time you called into our show in 2007 and embarrassed her?
I did embarrass her. I said she was very beautiful, and I watched the show because of her beauty, not because of any politics or anything. And
is that still the case?
Yeah, she's gotten more beautiful.
Ridiculous.
Wow. How does that happen,
Power.
Donald? Is it her power?
The show has become so successful that she's become very powerful. You like that one too, Joe.
You gotta do.
Great.
Go check the hair. Come on.
Get over here.
Go on.
Get over.
Oh.
First time seen on TV.
All right.
Just right.
Hairspray. But it is mine, isn't it?
It's there.
Thank you, Donald. We love you so much. And now they hate him every single day. Terrance, a little phony.
It's a little phony. Yeah, it's a little fake. And it just goes to show how things change
The hair
so quickly.
or them?
Them.
Because the hair was real. Okay.
I've never touched the hair, so it's reportedly real, yes, allegedly.
She's touching the hair, but now she hates him. Hates him.
Yeah.
They used to run around Mar-a-Lago, too. Talk about fun. Unbelievable.
That's true.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
How times change.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, let's get Sunny Side Up. Yeah, this is where we try to get your day going right before War Room. Right? I know Steve loves this part of the show because we're always happy we have puppies. And Karyn, I think you're going to like this because this is, there you go.
Aww.
Isn't that really nice? A rescued sloth cuddling with a beagle, a brand new friend.
That's so nice.
What a way to get to War Room. Patriots, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
I see them blue